Welcome to another episode of our English Learning Podcast. I'm Jennifer, and with me is Thomas. In today's episode, we'll be talking about the weather, a topic that's not only great for small talk, but also affects our daily lives in so many ways. From current weather conditions to recent patterns and even personal preferences, we'll cover it all.
That's right, and remember, by listening to podcasts like this, you're not only improving your listening and communication skills, but you're also learning new vocabulary and ways to describe everyday situations, like the weather. So let's dive in.
So, Thomas, what's the weather like in your area today?
It's actually quite chilly today. We've had a cold front come through, so the temperature has dropped quite a bit. I think it's around 10 degrees Celsius right now, and the wind is making it feel even colder.
Oh, that sounds brisk. Here, it's still mild. We've had some rain over the past few days, but today the sun is peeking through the clouds, and it's around 15 degrees Celsius. I really enjoy this type of weather, cool, but not too cold, ...
That sounds nice. The colder weather here is a bit of a shock after a warmer spell we had last week.
Do you think the weather affects your mood, Thomas?
Absolutely. When it's sunny, I feel more energetic and motivated to get things done. On rainy days, though, I often feel like staying inside with a book or just relaxing. What about you?
I'm the same way. Sunny days make me want to be outdoors, go for a walk, or just get out of the house. But I actually don't mind the rain. It gives me an excuse to stay cozy and work on indoor projects. It's like the weather gives me permission to slow down a bit.
That's an interesting way to look at it. I've noticed that people who live in places with a lot of rain seem to adjust their mindset to appreciate it more.
Speaking of rain, how have the weather patterns been in your area lately?
We've had a lot of fluctuations. Just last week, we had unusually warm temperatures for this time of year, and now we're back to a cold front. It's hard to keep up with how quickly the weather changes. It feels like one day I'm wearing a t-shirt and the next I'm pulling out my winter coat.
Same here. We've had mild weather, but it's been unpredictable with sudden shifts between sunny and rainy. I think these kinds of weather patterns are becoming more common, don't you?
Definitely. I've read that climate change is causing more extreme and erratic weather conditions. It makes planning activities more difficult when you can't rely on a stable weather forecast.
If you could choose your ideal weather, what would it be?
I'd have to say mild and sunny, maybe around 20 degrees Celsius with a light breeze. That's perfect for being outside, going for walks, or just enjoying the day. What about you?
That sounds great for me. I think I'd go for something similar sunny, but maybe a little warmer. Around 25 degrees Celsius. I like when it's warm enough to wear light clothes, but not too hot that it becomes uncomfortable.
It's interesting how everyone has a slightly different preference when it comes to weather, but most people seem to enjoy sunny days.
Agreed. Sunshine seems to be universally appreciated. How does the weather influence what you do in a day?
Well, when it's rainy, I tend to stay indoors and focus on things like reading or catching up on work. When it's sunny, I try to make the most of it by going outside, even if it's just for a walk or sitting on the balcony. What about you?
I'm the same. Sunny days are for outdoor activities, whether it's exercising, running errands, or meeting friends. Rainy days, on the other hand, are perfect for curling up with a good book or baking something delicious.
Yeah, I think weather really dictates our choices more than we realize. Even mundane tasks like grocery shopping seem more appealing on a nice day.
Have you ever had travel plans affected by the weather?
Oh, definitely. I remember planning a weekend trip to the coast, and we had to cancel because of a storm warning. It was disappointing, but safety comes first. Have you had similar experiences?
Yes, actually, last year, I had a flight delayed due to heavy fog. We ended up waiting at the airport for hours. Weather can be so unpredictable, especially when traveling by air.
That's so true. It's always a good idea to check the forecast before traveling, but even then, things can change quickly.
Do you rely on weather apps to plan your day?
Yes, I check the weather app every morning before heading out. It helps me decide what to wear and whether I need an umbrella. I find the forecasts to be fairly accurate, though sometimes the weather surprises me.
Same here. I like to have an idea of what to expect for the day. But like you said, weather can be unpredictable, especially with sudden storms or changes in temperature.
Weather is one of those things that can still surprise us, despite all the technology we have, right?
Absolutely. No matter how advanced our weather forecasting systems become, there's always a level of unpredictability. Just last week, they predicted sunshine all day, but by the afternoon, it was pouring rain. I was caught completely off guard without my umbrella.
Oh, that's the worst. I've had that happen too. It's like we trust the forecasts so much, but nature has its own plans. Do you think it's because of climate change that the weather has become more erratic?
That's part of it, I think. The science behind climate change suggests that it's causing more frequent and intense weather events. We're seeing things like unexpected storms or heat waves happening more often. It makes the weather harder to predict long term.
Yes, I've read that too. It's not just about warmer temperatures, but also about the instability it creates in weather systems. It's fascinating, but also a little scary when you think about the impact on daily life.
Definitely. And it's not just our daily routines, but bigger things like agriculture, travel, and even how cities are designed to handle these weather changes.
That's true. Weather is such a big part of our lives, yet we often take it for granted until something unusual happens. Speaking of unusual weather, have you ever experienced extreme weather events?
Yes, a few times. I remember a particularly severe snowstorm a couple of years ago. The roads were shut down, public transport was halted, and everyone was told to stay indoors. It was pretty intense. How about you?
I've experienced some heavy storms, but nothing too extreme like hurricanes or tornadoes. However, I do remember a summer a few years ago when we had an unexpected heat wave. It was unbearably hot, and people weren't prepared for it at all. Air conditioners sold out, and everyone was struggling to cope with the sudden rise in temperature.
Heat waves can be dangerous, especially in areas that aren't used to that kind of heat. It's amazing how weather can go from something we talk about casually to something that can disrupt our lives entirely.
Exactly. And with climate change, these extreme events seem to be happening more frequently. It really makes you think about how prepared we are for future changes.
Yes, I agree. It's definitely something we need to start thinking about more seriously, both on a personal level and in terms of global policy.
Speaking of climate change, do you think we'll see even more drastic changes in weather patterns in the future?
Unfortunately, I think so. The research shows that as the planet continues to warm, we're likely to see more extreme weather events, more intense storms, longer droughts, and unpredictable weather patterns. It's going to make life more challenging in a lot of ways.
That's true. I've read about how rising temperatures are affecting everything from sea levels to storm frequency. It's a big issue that impacts all of us, whether we realize it or not.
And the tricky part is that it's not just the obvious things like hotter summers, but also the subtle changes like shifts in rainfall patterns. Some regions are getting more rain than usual, while others are experiencing droughts.
It's definitely something that affects every corner of the globe. Even though weather seems like a local issue, it's part of a much larger, global system that we all share.
Yes, and it's a reminder that our actions, no matter where we are, can have ripple effects on the planet.
Absolutely. It's important for us to be mindful of how we're contributing to these changes, even in small ways. Let's talk about weather in different regions. Have you ever traveled to a place with a drastically different climate from where you live?
Yes, I remember visiting a tropical country once. The heat and humidity were overwhelming, especially since I wasn't used to it. I had to adjust my entire routine from how I dressed to how I spent my days. It was a totally different experience from the cooler climate I'm used to.
That must have been a big change. I've had similar experiences when traveling. I remember visiting a country with a dry, desert-like climate. The heat was intense, but it wasn't humid, so it felt completely different from the humid summers I'm used to at home.
It's fascinating how different climates can be and how people adapt to them. In tropical areas, you see people wearing lighter clothes and scheduling their outdoor activities for early in the morning or late in the evening to avoid the midday heat.
Exactly, and in colder regions, people are so prepared for snow and freezing temperatures. It's second nature to them, but for someone who isn't used to it, it can be quite a shock.
That's true. It really shows how much weather shapes our daily lives and even our culture.
On a lighter note, how much does weather influence your clothing choices?
Oh, a lot. If it's cold, I'm all about layers, jackets, scarves, and gloves. But if it's hot, I try to wear the lightest clothes possible, usually something breathable and comfortable. What about you?
I'm the same way. I have different wardrobes for different seasons, and I love switching things up as the weather changes. It's like each season brings a new style of clothing.
It's funny how weather dictates not just what we wear, but also what kind of activities we feel like doing. On a cold day, I'm more likely to stay indoors and drink a warm beverage, while a sunny day makes me want to be active outside.
That's so true. It's like the weather has a say in how we spend our time.
It definitely does. I think we don't even realize how much we adjust our daily routines based on the weather.
Agreed. It's amazing how such a basic part of nature can have such a huge impact on our choices. You know, I've noticed that the weather affects my mood a lot. If it's sunny, I feel more motivated and energized. But on rainy days, I tend to feel a bit down or sluggish. Do you feel the same?
Oh, absolutely. There's definitely something about the sunshine that lifts my spirits. It's like I have more energy to get things done. On the other hand, when it's cloudy or raining, I'm more likely to want to stay in bed and do nothing.
It's interesting how something as simple as the weather can impact how we feel mentally. I've read that there's even a condition called seasonal affective disorder, where people feel more depressed during the winter months because of the lack of sunlight.
Yes, I've heard about that too. It's pretty common in places where the winters are long and dark. Some people use special lamps to get more light and boost their mood.
That makes sense. It just shows how much we depend on the sun for our mental well-being. Do you think the same is true for people who live in very hot climates?
That's a good question. I think it could be different. If it's too hot, people might feel drained or irritable instead of energized. It really depends on what you're used to, I guess.
That's true. We all adapt to our own climates, but it's amazing how weather affects our emotions no matter where we are. Speaking of moods, do you think weather affects productivity? I find that I'm more productive on sunny days than on rainy ones.
Definitely. When it's sunny, I feel like I have more energy and focus to get things done. On rainy days, especially if it's cold, all I want to do is curl up with a book or watch a movie.
Same here. There's something about the brightness and warmth of a sunny day that makes me want to be more active. I also notice that I'm more motivated to do outdoor activities, like running errands or going for a walk.
That's true for me as well. When it's raining or gloomy, I tend to procrastinate more, especially if the tasks I have to do aren't particularly exciting. I think the weather just sets the tone for how we approach our day.
Exactly. It's funny how much of an impact it has, even on things like work or household chores. I wonder if people who live in places with more consistent weather are more productive overall.
That's an interesting thought. If the weather doesn't change much, maybe they're less affected by it. But I think no matter where you live, weather plays some role in how you feel and what you get done.
True. It's one of those subtle influences that we don't always think about, but it's definitely there. One thing I've noticed is how weather plays a huge role in travel plans. Do you ever plan your trips around the weather?
Oh, absolutely. I always check the forecast before I travel. If I'm going somewhere warm, I want to make sure I pack the right clothes and sunscreen. And if it's going to rain, I'll plan indoor activities instead.
Same here. I once went on a trip without checking the weather, and it ended up raining the entire time. I wasn't prepared at all, and it really affected how much I could enjoy the trip.
That's the worst. I've had similar experiences. One time, I traveled to a tropical destination expecting sunny weather, but there was a sudden storm that lasted for days. It really changed the mood of the vacation.
I think that's why a lot of people avoid certain destinations during the rainy season or the hottest months. It makes such a big difference when you can enjoy good weather while traveling.
Definitely. Weather can make or break a vacation. That's why I always keep an eye on the forecast and plan accordingly.
Good advice. It's always better to be prepared, especially when you're traveling somewhere new. We rely on weather forecasts a lot, but how accurate do you think they really are?
That's a tricky one. I think they're generally pretty accurate for short-term predictions, like the next day or two. But when it comes to long-term forecasts, like a week or more in advance, it's more of an educated guess.
Yeah, I agree. I've had days where the forecast said it would be sunny, but then it rained unexpectedly. I think there's always a margin of error, no matter how advanced the technology is.
Absolutely. Weather is such a complex system with so many variables that it's hard to predict it with 100% accuracy. But I think meteorologists do a good job considering how unpredictable nature can be.
True. I also appreciate the different apps and websites that provide real-time updates. It's helpful to check those before heading out, just to be prepared for any changes.
Same here. I think we've come a long way in terms of weather prediction, but there's always that element of surprise when it comes to nature.
Exactly. It's a reminder that we can't control everything, and sometimes we just have to go with the flow. So, if you could choose your ideal weather, what would it be?
That's a tough one. I think I'd go with a mild, sunny day around 20 to 25 degrees Celsius. Just warm enough to be comfortable, but not too hot. And maybe a light breeze. How about you?
That sounds lovely. I'd say I'm a fan of sunny weather too, but I also love a good rainy day every now and then, especially when I don't have to go anywhere. It's cozy and relaxing.
That's a good point. Rainy days are nice when you're at home and don't have any obligations. It's like an excuse to slow down and enjoy the moment.
Exactly. I think that's why I enjoy them. It's almost like the weather gives you permission to take a break.
That's a great way to look at it. So, while sunny days might be my favorite, I can definitely appreciate a good rainy day too.
Same here. It's all about balance, right? Each type of weather has its own charm. Weather doesn't just affect us, but it also has a huge impact on nature. Have you noticed how the changing weather affects plants and animals?
Yes, definitely. I live near a park and it's amazing how different it looks in each season. In spring, everything is in bloom and there are birds everywhere. But in the winter, it's quiet and the trees are bare.
That's one of the beautiful things about weather. It's like a cycle that nature follows. Plants and animals adapt to the changes, and it's interesting to see how they adjust.
Exactly. Even animals have different behaviors depending on the weather. In the winter, some animals hibernate, and in the summer, you see more wildlife out and about. It's all connected.
It really is. The weather shapes so much of what happens in nature, from when plants grow to how animals behave. It's a reminder of how important weather is in maintaining balance in the ecosystem.
Absolutely. And it's not just seasonal changes, but also daily weather patterns that affect nature in real time. A sudden storm can change everything in an instant.
Another interesting aspect of weather is how it affects sports activities. For example, when it's sunny and clear, outdoor sports like football or tennis are much more enjoyable. But what do you think, Thomas? Do you like playing sports in specific weather?
Oh, definitely. I prefer playing sports when it's cooler and sunny. It's much easier to enjoy a game of football when the weather is mild, without the blazing heat or rain getting in the way.
Right, some sports like skiing or snowboarding obviously require certain weather conditions, like snow. But it's not just about enjoying the game, it's also about safety. Playing in extreme heat or cold can be risky.
Absolutely. That's why professional sports often have weather delays or cancellations. Rain or snow can make the field slippery and dangerous. And too much sun can lead to heat stroke or dehydration.
Exactly. I think it's important for athletes to be mindful of the weather and prepare accordingly, whether that's staying hydrated on hot days or dressing appropriately for the cold.
Definitely. Weather is something we can't control, but we can prepare for it to ensure a better experience, both in sports and in our daily activities.
Have you noticed how much easier it's become to track weather thanks to technology? I mean, just a few decades ago, people relied mostly on TV or radio for updates, but now we have apps that give us real-time weather data. How do you use weather apps, Thomas?
Oh, I use weather apps all the time. It's so convenient to check the forecast on my phone before I head out. I can see the temperature, whether it's going to rain, and even the humidity levels. It helps me decide what to wear or if I should carry an umbrella.
I agree. Weather apps are a lifesaver. I also like the fact that they're updated frequently, so even if there's an unexpected change in the weather, I get notified right away.
Exactly. I've even seen apps that give detailed forecasts for specific locations, like if you're hiking in the mountains or visiting the beach. It's really cool how precise they've become.
That's a great point. And with these apps, we can plan outdoor activities more efficiently, ensuring that we're prepared for any sudden changes in the weather.
Yes, technology has definitely made staying informed about the weather easier and more accessible. It's one of those modern conveniences we often take for granted.
Now, let's talk about extreme weather events like hurricanes, tornadoes, or floods. These events can be terrifying, and they remind us of the power of nature. Have you ever experienced any extreme weather conditions, Thomas?
Thankfully, no. I've never been caught in anything too extreme, but I do remember a few severe storms that knocked out power and caused a lot of damage in my neighborhood. It really puts things into perspective.
I can imagine. Extreme weather events are becoming more common in certain parts of the world, and they have such a massive impact on people's lives, from destroying homes to disrupting communities.
It's really scary. And with climate change, we're seeing more frequent and intense storms, which is why it's so important for people to stay informed and prepared.
Absolutely. It's also why governments and communities need to invest in better infrastructure to handle these events, like flood defenses or emergency shelters.
Agreed. Being aware of the weather and how to react in extreme conditions can save lives. It's a topic that everyone should take seriously.
Have you ever noticed how people in different cultures talk about the weather? For some, it's just small talk, while in other places, it can be a big deal. I think it's fascinating how weather is viewed in various parts of the world.
That's so true. In some countries where the weather is extreme, like really hot or really cold, it's a more important topic of conversation. Whereas in places with milder climates, people don't talk about it as much.
Exactly. I think in places like the UK, where the weather changes frequently, people talk about it all the time. It's part of daily conversation. But in places with consistent weather, like tropical islands, it might not come up as often.
That's a great point. It's also interesting to see how people adapt to their weather. For example, people in colder climates might have traditions or ways of dressing that are specifically designed to deal with extreme cold.
Yes, and in hotter places, people often build homes or structure their days around avoiding the heat. It's amazing how weather shapes so much of our daily lives and culture.
Absolutely. Weather is one of those universal experiences, but how we interact with it varies greatly depending on where we live.
We've touched on this a little bit already, but I think it's important to talk about how climate change is affecting weather patterns. Have you noticed any changes in the weather where you live?
Yes, definitely. I've noticed that the summers seem to be getting hotter and the winters are shorter. It's not as cold as it used to be during the winter months.
Same here. Climate change is leading to more unpredictable weather patterns, and we're seeing an increase in extreme events like heat waves, heavy rainfall, and storms.
That's right. And what's worrying is that if we don't take action to reduce our carbon emissions, these changes could become even more severe in the future.
Exactly. It's something we all need to be aware of. Weather patterns are a reflection of the overall health of our planet, and the more we disrupt the climate, the more unpredictable the weather becomes.
It's a reminder that we need to take care of our environment because the weather is directly tied to the well-being of our planet.
With all these changes in weather and climate, how do you think people can adapt? What steps should we be taking to prepare for more unpredictable weather?
That's a good question. I think it starts with being informed. Keeping up with the latest news on climate change and understanding how it might impact your area is key.
Absolutely. I also think we need to invest in better infrastructure, like improving drainage systems to prevent flooding or building homes that can withstand extreme weather conditions.
Right, and on a personal level, we can all take steps to reduce our carbon footprint, like using less energy, recycling, and supporting sustainable businesses.
Yes, individual actions matter, and governments need to prioritize climate policies that address the root causes of these changes. It's going to take a global effort to manage these shifts in weather.
Agreed, but I'm hopeful that if we all work together, we can adapt to these changes and create a more sustainable future.
I think another important topic we should talk about is how weather impacts mental health. Have you ever noticed your mood change with the weather, Thomas?
Oh, definitely. On rainy days, I tend to feel a bit more sluggish, maybe even a little down. On the other hand, when it's sunny, I feel more energetic and positive. I think that's something a lot of people can relate to.
Yes, it's actually a well-known phenomenon called seasonal affective disorder, or SAD, where people feel more depressed during the winter months when there's less sunlight. I think the lack of sunlight really affects our mood and energy levels.
That's true. Sunlight plays a big role in regulating our body's internal clock, and without it, people can feel more tired or even depressed. That's why some doctors recommend light therapy for those who suffer from SAD.
Right. It's fascinating how something as simple as the weather can have such a big effect on our mental health. It's a reminder of how connected we are to our environment.
Absolutely. I think being aware of how weather affects our mood is important, and finding ways to manage those changes, like getting outside when it's sunny or using light therapy in the winter, can make a big difference.
That's a great point. The weather isn't just something we talk about, it really has an impact on our well-being, physically and mentally. Speaking of how weather affects us, I've always found it interesting how weather is used in movies and literature to set the mood or convey emotions. Do you have any favorite examples, Thomas?
Oh, definitely. In movies, rain is often used to represent sadness or tension, like in those dramatic scenes where someone is standing outside in the pouring rain, usually after some big emotional moment. It really adds to the atmosphere.
Yes, exactly. And in literature, you'll often find weather playing a symbolic role. For instance, a storm might represent chaos or conflict, while a clear, sunny day could symbolize peace or happiness.
That's so true. I think weather in stories helps us connect emotionally with the characters and the plot. It's a subtle but powerful way to enhance the mood and drive the story forward.
I agree. It's amazing how something as simple as the weather can evoke such strong emotions and help tell a story. I think it's something that filmmakers and writers use to make their work more relatable because we all experience weather in our own lives.
Absolutely. It's something universal, yet it can be used so creatively to convey deeper meanings.
Whether it's the gloomy clouds of a mystery novel or the bright sunshine of a romantic film, weather is a tool that enhances storytelling in ways we often don't even realize. Let's wrap up our discussion by talking about a practical aspect of weather preparing for emergencies. With extreme weather events becoming more common, it's important to know how to stay safe. What are some key things you think people should do to prepare, Thomas?
Well, first of all, having an emergency kit is crucial. It should include essentials like water, non-perishable food, flashlights, batteries, and first aid supplies. You never know when a power outage might happen or when you'll be stuck indoors for an extended period.
Yes, that's such good advice. I also think it's important to stay informed. Having a reliable source of weather updates, whether it's through an app or a weather radio, can help you make quick decisions in an emergency.
Absolutely. And if you live in areas prone to certain types of extreme weather, like hurricanes or floods, you should also have an evacuation plan in place. Knowing where to go and how to get there safely can make all the difference.
Yes, it's all about being prepared. Sometimes people don't take these precautions seriously until it's too late. But being proactive can really save lives in the event of extreme weather.
Exactly. And remember, extreme weather can happen anywhere, so it's always good to be prepared, no matter where you live.
Great advice, Thomas. I hope our listeners take this seriously and make sure they're ready for any unexpected weather events.
Me too. Being prepared can make all the difference when it comes to staying safe in the face of extreme weather.
Well, that brings us to the end of our episode on weather. We've explored so many aspects, from how it affects our daily lives to its role in literature, mental health, and even emergency preparedness.
Yes, it's been a great conversation, and I hope our listeners have not only learned some useful vocabulary and phrases, but also gained a better understanding of how weather impacts us in more ways than we realize.
Thanks for tuning in. Everyone, remember, by listening to podcasts like ours, you're not only improving your English listening skills, but also gaining new insights and information on everyday topics.
We really appreciate you joining us, and we hope you'll continue to tune in for more episodes. Take care and stay prepared for whatever weather comes your way.
Thanks, everyone. Until next time, stay safe and keep learning.